please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Asian markets, they have opened up higher following a strong handover from Wall Street after President Donald Trump clarified in a tweet that a possible U.S. military strike on Syria may not be imminent. The Japanese markets, that's holding with sharp gains in today's trading session, sitting with a gain of close to around 250 points. The Kospi as well was high with a gain of around 0.3%. So let's pull that market up for you. That, in fact, is now sitting with a gain of around 0.5%. And the Straits in the Taiwanese index, they just opened a short while back. We're getting the initial ticks out there, and that as well in the green. So Asian markets opened up well in the green. Positive global cues, positive Asian cues would mean that the SGX Nifty, it's been on a winning streak, 6-session winning streak. Well, it's indicating maybe another 30-35 point bump up just to kickstart trade.
Okay, well, let's tell you about what's taking place on Wall Street. U.S. stocks have closed sharply higher with major indices extending recent outperformance. The Dow rose almost 300 points at close, while the S&P and NASDAQ ended with gains of 1%. Geopolitical concerns appeared to fade as President Donald Trump took to Twitter to clarify his position on a possible missile attack in Syria in terms of sectors. Bank stocks led the gains with majors like JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup and Goldman rising ahead of earnings. CNBC's Josh Lipton gets us the latest on what took place in the U.S.
U.S. markets finishing higher for the third time in 4 days. The Dow adding 293 points, the S&P tacking on 21, and the NASDAQ gaining 71. New jobless claims fell again. They've now been below 300,000 for more than 3 years. That is the longest streak since they began keeping track in 1967. Volkswagen's supervisory board firing CEO Matthias Müller and appointing VW brand chief Herbert Diess as group CEO. The world's largest automaker is still cleaning up the mess following its diesel emissions scandal. Ride-hailing service Uber says it'll start doing annual criminal background checks on U.S. drivers to keep riders safe. It'll also add a button in the Uber app for riders to call 911 in an emergency. That's the action from the U.S. market. Now back to you in Mumbai.
Okay, well, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink says don't try to time this wild stock market. In an exclusive conversation with CNBC, he talks on trade war threats and says China will have to negotiate.
You should always be invested in the marketplace. My chairman letter in the annual report, this talks about the long-termism of investing in equities. I'm not sure what inning we're in. I mean, obviously, we are late in an economic cycle. It is being extended by the tax reform, let's be clear. So we may have been in the 7th or 8th inning, if you want to put in that vernacular, and it's extended into extra innings.
You spent a lot of time talking to foreign trade ministers and finance ministers. When people talk about a trade war with China, not just on the tariff side, but what do you hear from them, from the Chinese, on the other possibilities of what this could mean?
They're making changes, maybe not as fast as our administration is looking for.
This is something they've been promising for quite a long time.
And it's now happening.
And CEOs are rightfully skeptical of that, but you think that it will really happen this year?
It will definitely happen.
How do they read the tweets?
I wouldn't know.
Do you think?
But I assume that do they say we're very patient and we understand the
patient,
way?
We're the ones that have been patient. Larry, let me ask you this: so they know, with a wink and a nod among themselves, they know that some of their practices could not last forever. Do they justify that? But by them, they're coming from a different place than we are, and they got to do things for their people. And I understand that it's tough to do that. So, but they must know that there are certain things that just don't fly. And if you're talking about a completely fair playing ground, so I understand you're saying they're patient, but they know they got to come into the real world someday and play by the rules.
I had dinners in China with many of the top U.S. CEOs. Just us alone when we were there. I would tell you the practices of China were far worse, according to them, 5 and 10 years ago. Right. Indeed, many of them said the practice of the last 2-3 years, some CEOs that have been on Squawk, their practices have been totally changed. It's a much more open. And these are some tech companies. in two instances, two CEOs from the tech side told me that the manner in which they're operating, the manner in which they're supposed to be interacting with the domestic companies have changed. They have more opportunity to grow. So I would tell you they are seeing on the ground level, and I'm not there yet because I'm inhibited still, but these are tech companies who are there. They said they've seen changes. But directly to your question, I think they know they have to negotiate.
Well, and U.S. President Donald Trump early this morning has said that the trade negotiations with China were going on very well, clearly asserting that the two countries have made a lot of progress. He says, and I quote, "I am proud to announce that we're getting along very well with respect to the whole very big negotiation that we have been having with China." Okay, all right, so that was a tweet that came in early this morning. But the European markets in yesterday's trading session, well, they ended higher as President Donald Trump clarified his position on Syria, and earnings season as well did kickstart there. The FTSE, though, that was a relative underperformer. It ended marginally in the green, but you had the DAX that in fact ended with a gain of closer around 1%. In terms of emerging markets, the Russian index has been under some pressure all through this week. In fact, it's been seeing selling pressure. That's on the back of the US sanctions on Russia. But in yesterday's trading session, there was a bit of a bounce. It ended with a gain of more than 3, closer around 4% in trade yesterday. Though even after that big bounce, it's still down nearly around 10% for this week. All right, that's about the European markets then, but let's come back home. The race for Fortis is only heating up as the debt-ridden company now has 3 suitors, with Hero Enterprises Investment Office as well as the Berman family entering the fray. Remember, Manipal Hospitals, backed by private equity player TPG, they were the first ones to express interest. Now that even as the consortium is working on sweetening that deal, there was an unsolicited offer from Malaysian hospital IHH. Ekta, tell us what's going on now. There are a lot of parties. This came out of nowhere.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think anybody had a whiff that Hero had even entered into a non-disclosure agreement or an NDA all the way back in July 2017. And they had basically said that at that point in time, they were not allowed to do due diligence and then give a valuation. They had to give a valuation and then do due diligence, and that's the reason why there was a stalemate and they backed off. Both of them, Berman as well as Hero, own around 3% stake in the company. They entered into negotiations in the last week of March 2018 again, but did not receive any sort of substantiated response from the Fortis board. So hence that was dropped as well. But now they have said that they are concerned about the criticality of the operations and the running of the operations. So for example, the employee salaries, etc. So now they have a 2-part investment that they're looking at. 500 crores initially, which will be either via SEBI offer or SEBI price with regards to the preferential allotment, or 156 rupees, whichever is higher. And secondly, there will be 750 crores that they would look at in terms of the second part of the fund infusion, but that would be based on due diligence. So this is very important to note that 500 crores would come in immediately into the company, and that would be important because it would be used for the running of the operations of the company, which is currently facing a liquidity crisis. 70 crores is what we understand is what the company is only left with. For those 500 crores, the Munjals as well as Bermans have asked for a board seat to know how exactly the fund infusion is going to go. After that, within 3 weeks, they're going to do a due diligence, or maybe parallel, they'll do the due diligence and decide that whether they want to invest an additional 750 crores, which is contingent on the due diligence. And with this, post 500 crores plus 750 crores, they will take their investment or their holding up to 15.6%. So there are a lot of unanswered questions. Are they just coming in as investors into Fortis, and will the Manipal deal probably be a parallel thing which will go through? Or will these funds then result in the company getting a little bit of lease of life, and then hence maybe there could be a better bidder which would come in, or maybe Manipal would have to increase its bid based on the operational viability increasing. The important thing to note here, and the most critical component of this, is that 750 crores of this 1250 crores is based on due diligence. We've heard that And remember, IHH is still working on the offer in the sense that the board has still not come out with a formal notice with regards to IHH. So what we are working with is Manipal is a binding offer which also has due diligence done in that case. In this case, 500 crores is without due diligence, 750 crores is based on due diligence, based on due diligence. So that means that there is a part of this offer which is just linked to due diligence and is non-binding in nature. So that's what the criticality is at this point in time, and we need a couple of questions answered from them, saying that are they looking to become promoters of Fortis, and whether they would want to increase their stake, whether there would be an open offer. These are the questions we need to ask them in order to assess this, where they would be placed in the larger scheme of things.
All right, I remember the deal was announced, Ekta, from Manipal on 27th of March. The next trading session, the stock went down all the way to around 120 on disappointments. But there's still hope, I think, for all those equity shareholders, because now the entire race is heating up. From, in fact, those lows, they've already got 25%.
But nobody wants to come in besides Manipal and say that we'll acquire the company with no questions asked post due diligence. Everyone is saying there is a component of a non-binding which is present, because nobody wants to take on the legal liabilities which might come in with an SFIO probe or the Luthra report, or you dwell deeper into the books. You don't know what you're going to get.
Absolutely.
So that's where the fear is.
Okay, all right. Interesting chart there up for you on the screen. Towards the end of March, in fact, the stock hit 120. From there, it's given you 25% returns, as the director had just pulled up for all of you. Well, we'll slip into a short break. You come back, we'll tell you all the cues and news that are stacked up for us when we open up for trade. Well, the Asian markets, they're looking good early this morning. The Nikkei is sitting with a gain of close to around 250 points. The Kospi is sitting with a gain of 0.5%, and the other couple of markets as well. The Straits and the Taiwanese index, both of them have opened up well in the green. So let's get both those markets up for you. And the SGX Nifty, well, it seems like it's a green morning, because the SGX Nifty is indicating maybe a 30 to 40 point bump up just to kickstart trade, Ekta.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's also tell you about other asset classes then. In the currency space, the dollar has firmed against its peers as an improvement in investor risk appetite has lifted equities and pushed the US yields higher in trade.
And in the world of commodities and oil prices, they've slipped a tad bit from the 3-year highs, but they continue to be supported by heightened geopolitical tension in the Middle East.
From precious metals, we have gold prices which have edged up after posting its biggest percentage fall in over 2 weeks. Tensions over Syria and US-China trade standoff remain key to watch.
Well, back home on the Wall Street, the markets ended higher. The Nifty as well as the Sensex rallied around 0.5% each. The Sensex outperformed peers, while the Nifty gained for the 6th straight trading session. However, mid-caps, they underperformed yet again. The index ended in the red. But today, well, Asian cues are positive. It's Friday the 13th. For the last few years, we here on CNBC TV18 have been tracking that data as well. Mangalam joins us this morning to run us through all the cues. Hey, Mangalam, good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. Looks good for the markets. Tell you what, the mid-caps, while they are underperforming, the frontline indices, the way they are batting well, it's only about time that perhaps the mid-cap index moves higher as well. So 6 days in a row, we have been trading in the green. We've been closing in the green, at least as far as the frontline indices are concerned. So in the last 6 days, the Nifty as well as the Nifty Bank, they've gained. The Nifty has gained about, 330 points. The Nifty Bank has added close to around 890 points, and the Sensex, that one has gained about 1100 points. After closing yesterday, what the Nifty has done is it's also conquered the 50 and the 100-day moving average, which it has been evading or facing some sort of hurdles at for a fairly long period of time. So we'll keep an eye out on that. What is positive are the flows pictures. The FIIs, for 2 days in a row now, they've been adding some positions in the cash market. So 362 crores worth selling, buying a day before yesterday. Yesterday too, we saw about 370 crores worth purchase. And in index futures, there the shorts are running for cover. Longs are being added 3 days in a row. The FIIs are buying in index futures. And if you take a look at just the last 3 sessions, the FIIs, they've added close to around 13,550 long contracts and covered 13,560 short contracts. So that's roughly 27,000 new contracts added on the long side. So with that, the FIIs who were 18% long at CD start are now just 26% long. Still net short, so case for more short covering What is interesting is the Nifty open interest, the long open interest. If you take a look at it on the lower end, from 10,000 it has moved to 10,300. From on the higher end, from 10,500 it has moved to 10,600. Global cues are positive. The Dow ended higher. The Nikkei has opened higher with a gain of about 1%, and the SGX Nifty, as you guys were pointing out, has seen a gain of close to 30-40 points at the open. What could topple this apple cart? Well, just for the superstitious guys, it is Friday the 13th. We'll watch out for that, but also watch out for the yield. March CPI was lower than what it was in the previous month, and the IIP was higher too. Friday the 13th, out of the last 5 Fridays the 13th, 4 times we've closed in the red. Watch out for that. And the last time it came as in April, saw a Friday the 13th, it was in 2012. That time the Nifty moved 1.3% lower. Not to suggest that that's going to happen. That's just for trivia.
Okay, and what about stocks, Mangala?
Well, Ekta, the first stock that we'll be watching out for all through today's trading session is Infosys. The results likely to come after the markets. Won't talk much about it. We'll leave Rima to do the expectations as well. But also watch out for all the other IT stocks. They've been outperforming in trade yesterday. They've been outperforming over the last 2 days. And the interesting part is now we're getting some notes coming in. Edelweiss, for instance, they've written that their outlook on the Indian IT sector has been the most bullish in a decade. So we'll watch out for that. Fortis, Ekta, you've been talking about that. So now there is the third player in the fray. We have Munjals as well as Berman's. They have put in their hat in the ring, and they say that their offer deserves serious and urgent consideration. So we'll watch out for that stock. Karnataka Bank, they've provided their provisional numbers. So for the period ended March 31st, they've seen a total business turnover growth of 18%. Loan growth or advances have grown by about 29%. Quality, that stock keeps doing its own jig. Now, yesterday and day before yesterday, there were a couple of bulk deals. Yesterday, the Lecto Brusso EM fund bought another 36.5 lakh shares. So over the last 2 sessions, they bought about 3.2% equity in the company, whereas Siddhant Gupta and Sons, their family, they've been selling stakes. So we'll watch out for that. Agrotech Foods, a stock that we don't usually talk about. There was a bulk deal where Equity Intelligence, Purinju's fund that bought about 1.5 lakh shares. Remember, this is the company that makes Sundrop oil as well as Act 2 popcorn. So we'll keep an eye out on all these stocks.
All right, Mangalam, thanks so much for that. Well, we'll keep an eye out on all those stocks, but for the time being, we'll slip into a short break. Up